welcome to another one of our videos, and today I'm down at the absolutely gorgeous Brackenborough Hall, which is just outside of Louth in Lincolnshire. It's a farming operation run by Paul and Flora, and they've also got some holiday cottages. They've invited me to come and take a bit of a look around at their holiday cottages. They've been doing it way longer than James and I, so they've got loads of experience, and also their farming operation, which is predominantly arable, but they've also got some cattle as well. So let's go down and meet with Paul and Flora.
So I'm Paul, and we're standing in front of our listed coach house that we converted to self-catering accommodation, the business being Brackenborough Hall Coach House, but it's in the middle of our farm, mainly arable farm but with cattle as well, at Brackenborough Hall, just a couple of miles north of Louth.
And I'm Flora, Paul's wife, and we together deal with the self-catering, and yeah, we look forward to seeing you all.
Yeah, so we live at Brackenborough Hall, which is the manor house in the middle of our farm. It's been farmed here since pre-Doomsday book, Doomsday time. It's the site of a deserted medieval village. It's a moated site, and the Bennett family, I'm the fourth generation Bennett to farm here. We've been here since 1908, and we run a mainly arable farm from Brackenborough Hall.
People that come here love to just be here. We've got fabulous grounds that people can be out in. We're right in the middle of our farm, so there's walks from the door. For children, it's fantastic. There's loads of space. We've got a large lawn. We've got swings in the trees. They can just enjoy being here. There's lots of kids' toys and little tractors and things in the garden as well. Usually Paul will also do a farm tour and show them some of the animals and the tractors and what's going on the farm as well. But then there's lots to do in Louth, our market town, which is only 2 miles away as well. Do you want to speak about what else goes on?
Well, Louth is very much a foodie town with lots of independent food shops. And we're between Lincolnshire Wolds and the coastline, so there's lovely sandy beaches at the coast from here, or nature reserves if that's what people want. And the other way to the west slightly is the outstanding natural beauty of the Lincolnshire Wolds, and there's lovely walking country there.
And of course Lincoln's only an hour's drive away, and that's really popular with its castle and cathedral.
It's been great to hear about Paul and Flora's diversification on the farm, but what about the farming?
It's all what we'd call combinable crops, so wheat is the main crop, but then oilseed rape, barley and beans, on sort of 900 acres of our own and a couple of hundred acres of contract farming that we do as well. It's mostly centred around Brackenborough Hall farm, but we have 2 other sites not far away.
Paul and Flora's son has just returned back from New Zealand. Will he bring some changes to the farm?
He has. Our son has come back from New Zealand. Our son Chris has come back from New Zealand. So he'll no doubt introduce a few new ideas and things, and we'll discuss them. and I didn't mention the cattle. So we also have what's called a suckler herd of beef, meaning the calves suckle their cows, suckle their mothers. And they're on the parkland, which is where the deserted medieval village is. And we calve through the sort of winter and early spring, so January to March.
Yeah, so when it's calving in the winter time, quite often we'll give the guests a knock and say, do you want to come and have a look? And people might be lucky enough to see a calf being born and see the calf take its first steps and then suckle from its mother. And there's quite a safe area that they can go in and have a look at the calves afterwards as well. We have usually about 40 calves calving in the winter.
One of the things that Paul and Flora are really proud of are the tours that they offer guests while they stay on the farm, giving them an opportunity to get a real education and an insight into farm life.
That's it, and Paul is brilliant at actually telling people all about the farming because he's the farmer.
Yeah, so when, apart from in calving time, then I tend to do farm tours if people want to do so. Tell them about the farming, the modern farming and the history of the estate, and if they're lucky enough to come at certain times of year, then they can sit on tractors and that sort of thing. Yeah, no, I try and show them both the crops growing in the field, and then if we've got some wheat in store, then we'll show them it. And then the other thing that very few people have any idea what oilseed rape looks like that it's a black seed because it's a brassica. They know it's oil, but they assume you harvest oil.
Paul and Flora run a really successful self-catering business, but the conversion was a huge project.
Yeah, so it was. We first thought about it in the 90s, but eventually we opened we did it in the early 2000s. The building's a listed building. It was deteriorating. It was effectively just an outbuilding where you dump stuff that you've got to dump. So we're going to have to spend quite a lot of money on the building anyway, just to keep it up. And farming through the 90s and 2000s was going through a fairly difficult time. And if we're going to spend a fair bit of money on it anyway, then we ought to spend a bit more and make another business out of it. Yeah, it's a listed building. We actually wanted to keep it all the original features, but we still ended up debating, should I say, with the listed building authorities for quite a lot of the time through. But in the end, we got to what we thought was a lovely conversion with the original features and something that's a bit unique, basically. And that's, I think, what you've got to do really to be a bit different from everybody else.
So it was listed, or it's the historical descriptions of it as the carriage house with the stables and the granary. And you can see exactly how it was what it was. The carriage part is the central area of the coach house, which you could still drive through if we cleared it out. And the stables are still obviously stables with the feed troughs and the hay racks in them. The granary's still got the winch that used to winch up the sacks of corn, and it's got the original clock with the bell that strikes on top of the building that used to call all the labourers for their tea breaks.
When you look around the property, you notice how many original features that Paul and Flora have managed to keep. It's quite amazing, really.
We've kept everything we could. When we were doing the conversion, the contractors kept saying, "What should we do with this?" And we just kept saying, "Just leave it. It'll be interesting to somebody." We do have a folly. Yeah, we have a folly in the garden, which is it's on a mound. It's made from the remains of the medieval church of a village of Fotherby, which is about a mile away as the crow flies. And they got a new church in the 1860s, and Robson, who was farming here at the time, gathered up some of the old bricks and stones and built a folly in his garden, which looks towards Louth Church.
It had been deteriorating because a tree had started growing up through it, and it needed a lot of work. Some of the original stonework had fallen into the moat. So again, with a lot of consultation with planners and listed building officers and conservation officers, we managed to get permission from Historic England to actually rebuild it. We got every stone and put it in place, worked out like a jigsaw where it had come from the original photographs. And then our handyman, with a lot of supervision, managed to actually rebuild it stone for stone, and it's now all safe, and you can go up and sit and have a glass of something up there looking out over the cattle in the park.
With all that free time that you've got.
Yeah, that's right.
We've done it twice.
And guests can do it anyway.
Can they? Guests can.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, there's been huge changes on the farm particularly. So after the Second World War there were still 12 people employed on the farm because we've got the old wages books. And my mother also did a cine film of round the year on the farm in 1959 to 60, which we've now got on DVD. And it's just amazing the number of things they did on the farm then. So they had pigs and sheep and cattle and turkeys for Christmas. They grew lots of different arable crops to feed those livestock through the winter, like kale and swedes and mangels, and they had some sugar beet and some potatoes, as well as all the other combinable crops that we still grow, plus oats, I think. It's just phenomenal the number of different things they grew, and as farmers we've all specialised since then.
And the cottages would have been full of labourers, and they'd each have had their own pig, which they'd put away. We had a couple of there would have been a couple of dairy cows so they could have fresh milk. And then, of course, the coach house would be used for the horses. So very different. The house and grounds are grade 2 star listed, and the folly's listed in its own right as well. Yeah.
And this is grade 2. The coach house is grade 2.
It's a challenge to actually keep and maintain and improve a listed building because you have limitations. So for example, when we wanted to put some extra windows in granary, the only windows we were allowed to do was put in roof lights on an area which isn't visible from the outside. There's a valley, so that's where we put them. We needed a ceiling in the downstairs floor, and they discovered that it used to be a horsehair one, so we had to put back a horsehair ceiling rather than a plaster one. Yeah, we've got pan tiles on the roof, and it's challenging sometimes to keep them watertight. Yeah, so basically the building's not going to change, but and people's requirements and need go up. So we're constantly working to make sure that we can keep things up to date.
Brackenborough Hall is such a beautiful property, but quite a responsibility to take care of. We asked Paul and Flora what it's like to live there.
Yeah, so I'm the fourth generation of Bennett to live here. Yeah, you certainly feel a sort of responsibility to pass it on in better condition than you inherited it, which we spent quite a lot of it in the 1990s, and which was basically keeping it watertight originally, and hopefully we've kept it all right since then.
But as a child, you used to play and enjoy the outside, didn't you?
Yeah, certainly it's a fantastic place to grow up. You only realise that later in life, really, to a certain extent. We've got a tree which is cone-shaped, which we've always just called the shaped tree, which is incredibly easy to climb, although we don't tell all guests that. But if people come here as children and then come back as adults, that's what they remember about this place. Playing in the garden, basically. Yeah, well, it's the deserted medieval village. Was a village from about Saxon times, sort of 700-800, through to the 14th century, when the Black Death didn't entirely kill it off, but it meant the high labour requirement strip farming that had gone before with a feudal type system broke down, and certainly economically around here it went over to lots of sheep, and you could have one shepherd looking after a big area of grass where you couldn't do that on an arable basis in those days, and so the village gradually died out with the lack of demand for labour, and presumably people either moved away or the Black Death killed half of them anyway. 50% of the population died in Lincolnshire, so it's phenomenal to think about, really.
So now it's just ditches grassed over. We've got the cattle grazing on it, but it's just the other side of our cattle grid, so it's a step from the house, so you can go and have a wander down. And it's one of the better preserved medieval villages, so that there's like a grid system where you can see the tofts used to be. So there'd be a house with some sort of fence or hedge around it, and they'd have a couple of animals and a few vegetables and that. And then also in the parklands, you've got your medieval strip farming as well, which is really obvious if you walk up and down it.
Yeah, and it is actually very clear from the air, so we've got good aerial shots of it, but if you go on Google Earth and look at Brackenburgh, it is ever so clear, very clear rectangular plots.
Another thing we haven't covered is nature. Yeah, so you can probably hear there's loads of birds around here. We've got lots of trees around the house and the coach house, so it's really nice watching them and seeing how they change over the season. We get owls often in the evening that you can hear. And then we have mammals too. We have badger sets, quite a few of them, and some of our guests like to go out and sit under the tree and watch to see if they can see them coming out. We've got deer in the wood as well, so quite often you have a walk down the beck and you'll see some of the deer. And what else have we got?
Well, lots of hares.
Oh, yes.
At the moment there's loads of hares. They seem to have had a very good breeding season.
Yeah, I met one this morning as I took the dog out. Yeah, and of course dogs. Dogs obviously aren't wildlife, but they're very welcome here, and it's a brilliant place for them because you can walk from the door. So we've got a black lab, and she has a fantastic time around here. But we welcome dogs, and yes, it's a great place for them. I think they find it very warm welcome because we're on the spot, so we try and visit all our guests. And it's just being here. It's a fantastic building. It's very comfortable, but it's also pretty historic. And then the grounds for the house and garden are just brilliant. So we have had children that say that they don't want to go out, they just want to play here, whereas the parents might want to go out to Louth or to the beach or whatever. So it's really, I think, the location that makes it, but also the welcome. And Lincolnshire's a brilliant place too, and fantastic food in Louth, and look, market town. Uncluttered roads, so yeah, it's a lovely place to come.
yeah, this video is getting pretty long, and there's just so much information, especially with the history of this place, which is absolutely amazing. And Paul and Flora are so knowledgeable as well about everything that's going on, and the conversion of their coach house and the farming operation. So we've split it into 2 videos. Keep an eye out for the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and there's going to be some more coming up. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more time, and yeah, make sure that you keep an eye out for that second video. It'll be coming soon.